Welcome back to my YouTube channel and thank you for following our series on the Kings of England. In our last episode we looked at Edward I, a warrior king who reformed English law, conquered Wales, expelled the Jews and waged war against Scotland. Today we turn to his son Edward II, whose reign marked a sharp contrast. Unlike his father, Edward II lacked military skill, political judgment and personal authority. His rule was marred by rebellion, favoritism, civil war, and, ultimately, his dramatic deposition. Let's explore the troubled reign of a king whose failures reshaped the English crown. Edward II was born on April 25, 1284, at Caernarfon Castle in Wales, the first English prince born after the conquest of that country. He was the youngest son of Edward I and Eleanor of Castile, and the only one of their sons to survive into adulthood. Though his father was a disciplined, authoritative king, Edward II had different interests. He preferred music, rowing, and the company of favourites to matters of war and governance. Edward ascended the throne in 1307 upon the death of Edward I while on campaign against Scotland. According to historian Seymour Phillips in Edward II, his father's dying advice was to carry on the war against the Scots. But Edward quickly reversed course, recalling his closest companion Piers Gaveston and abandoning his father's unfinished campaigns. Piers Gaveston was a Gascon knight of relatively minor nobility who had long been close to Edward. Their relationship, rumoured to be romantic by some contemporaries, stirred unease. Edward granted Gaveston the prestigious title of Earl of Cornwall, normally reserved for royal blood, which insulted the English nobility. Among Gaveston's fiercest enemies was Thomas of Lancaster, Edward's cousin and a grandson of Henry III. Lancaster was one of the wealthiest and most powerful magnates in England, holding vast lands and a personal retinue that rivaled the king's. He saw Gaveston's influence as both insulting and dangerous. In 1311, a group of barons imposed the Ordinances, a series of reforms meant to curb the king's power and expel Gaveston. Edward briefly exiled Gaveston, but soon recalled him, defying the barons. In 1312, the tensions exploded. Gaveston was captured by Lancaster's faction and executed without trial near Warwick. This act deepened the divide between Edward and his nobles and triggered a period of political instability. In 1314, Edward launched a campaign to relieve the besieged Stirling Castle in Scotland. Opposing him was Robert the Bruce, the newly crowned King of Scots. At the Battle of Bannockburn, Edward's massive army was humiliated by a smaller Scottish force. Bannockburn was a catastrophe. The English army was routed, many nobles were killed or captured, and Edward fled the battlefield. Bruce's victory secured Scottish independence for a generation and permanently damaged Edward's reputation. As Mark Morris notes in A Great and Terrible King, Edward managed to lose everything his father had gained in Scotland in a single day. After Gaveston's death, a new favourite rose to prominence, Hugh Despenser the Younger, son of Hugh Despenser the Elder, a loyal courtier and long-time supporter of Edward I. The Despensers rapidly gained land, wealth and influence, provoking widespread anger. Once again, baronial opposition formed, led by Thomas of Lancaster and supported by figures like Humphrey de Bohun, the Earl of Hereford. Bohun was a respected veteran of the Welsh and Scottish wars and a staunch defender of baronial rights. In 1321, civil war erupted. The Despensers were briefly exiled, but Edward soon struck back. In 1322, the king's forces defeated Lancaster at the Battle of Boroughbridge. Lancaster was captured, tried and executed, becoming a martyr for the baronial cause. With Lancaster dead, Edward and the Despensers ruled without opposition. But their regime grew increasingly tyrannical, relying on intimidation, confiscations and military force to maintain power. Edward's queen, Isabella of France, daughter of King Philip IV, had long endured humiliation at court due to Edward's favoritism toward Gaveston and the Despensers. Her marriage had become strained and her political instincts sharpened. In 1325, Edward sent their son, Prince Edward, to France to pay homage to the French king. Isabella accompanied him but refused to return. In Paris, she formed an alliance, both political and romantic, with Roger Mortimer, a powerful marcher lord who had once been imprisoned by the Despensers and had escaped to France. In 1326, Isabella and Mortimer launched an invasion from the Low Countries with a small army. Many nobles and gentry joined them, including Henry of Lancaster, the younger brother of the executed Thomas of Lancaster, who now sought revenge and reform. The regime collapsed quickly. The Despensers were captured and executed with brutal public spectacle. Edward was forced to abdicate in January 1327 in favour of his son, now Edward III. Edward II was imprisoned at Berkeley Castle. In September of 1327 he died under mysterious circumstances. The official report claimed he died of natural causes, but rumours circulated of foul play, most infamously the tale that he was murdered by a red-hot poker. Modern historians like Ian Mortimer in The Greatest Traitor argue that Edward may have survived in secret exile for years. However, most evidence suggests he died in captivity, his death likely sanctioned by Isabella and Mortimer to eliminate the risk of restoration. Historian Seymour Phillips argues that Edward's fall was the result of his inability to manage magnates, military defeat, and a political style that bred resentment. Edward II's reign was a cautionary tale of royal weakness. He inherited a strong kingdom but squandered its stability through poor leadership and destructive favoritism. His deposition marked the first time in English history that a monarch was formally removed from the throne by political action. In our next episode, we'll follow the early reign of Edward III, who began as a puppet of his mother and Mortimer, but would later become one of England's most successful warrior kings. Thank you for watching. If you found this episode informative, be sure to like, subscribe, and join us for the next chapter in the story of England's medieval kings.